So, hello everyone on YouTube, TheMainManSWE here, hoping you're all doing awesome as always. I will now be doing a little reaction, or rather a commentary onto a video JDCR put out a few days ago. You most likely know who JDCR is, one of the absolute best players in the world, and he's a great guy. I have a lot of respect for him, I've met him many times, and he's just always a pleasure to talk to. But yes, he will be talking about the worst characters in Tekken 7. I haven't watched the whole video, but judging from the little I saw that our opinions do not match up. So it could be interesting to talk about that. But of course, he's 50 times the player I am. But I still feel like some of the stuff he says, I just find to be objectively wrong. Like it's almost like it can't even be argued. But of course, he's way better than me. But sometimes I feel like these pro players, they just shoot stuff out from left field and they just say the most absurd stuff. But you might agree with JDCR, of course. But it could be interesting to watch, I think. So, of course, he will be speaking in Korean. We will have English subtitles right here. And of course, his Armor King is always just a pleasure to behold.
내가 파쿠남 깽을 느꼈는데 이 콤보가 확실히 파쿠남이 유독 좋은 거지만 확실히 이게 일반 콤보인데 때려가지고 그냥 약간 벽 안 가고 약간 적절히 가면서 약간 데미지 적절히 나오는 건데 파쿠남은 저 상황도 때렸으면 아마 거의 벽 가가지고 또 이지걸었을 거야 거기서.
So here he's comparing Armor King's combos to Fahkumram. And of course, when Armor King joined the battle in Season 2, like, his combo output was so far ahead of most characters. And he's still absolutely one of the strongest characters in terms of combo. His staple, if you do the correct staple, it does 80 damage without a wall. And if there are walls, Armor King can do some amazing things. Like the Season 3 buff to his down 2-4-3 does a lot of damage and also gives a powerful mix-up at the wall, which he's not mentioning here. He's saying that Fahkumram would get a mix-up at the wall. Armor King certainly also gets that. But yes, Fahkumram has some absurd wall carry and damage. No one is going to argue against that.
안녕하세요. PC예요. Hello. 내 포테로. Hello. I feel very happy. Now I play non-Fahkumram. Happy Tekken.
I guess he means I'm not playing against Fahkumram. Well, I mean, maybe he doesn't want to play Fahkumram either.
Fahkumram is actually like one of the top characters, but you can't even compare her to Fahkumram. 그만해.
Fahkumram is crazy. That movement, combined with his reach, his range, and the busted hitbox, it's a big problem. Hopefully fixed in Season 4 with the big upcoming balance patch Harada has hinted at many times.
어떡하지? 뭐야 이거? 지렁이로 오는 거 아니야? 아이고. 어이구. 오. 좋아. 야! 개빨로! 야! 나는 그래도 파쿠남이 더 짜증나는 것 같아. 왜냐면은 패치 전 리로이랑 파쿠남이야. 나는 그래도 파쿠남. 왜냐면은 얘는 히트박스가 특이하잖아. 리로이는 맞더라도 맞으면은 그렇군. 세군. 파쿠남은 얘 좀 이상한데. 파쿠남은
So here he feels that Fahkumram is even worse than pre-patch Leroy. So that's launch Leroy. Due to Fahkumram's obnoxious hitboxes, where some attacks will just go right through him. And they tried patching Fahkumram and they fixed his head so that a lot of combos that would whiff, you know, from behind, from the rear, or for example Jin's Hell Sweep, you know, that puts their head towards Jin. His big boy stuff wouldn't work on Fahkumram. So there was a lot of issues there, but they fixed that. But still a lot of attacks go through his legs. But as for, you know, Fahkumram being worse than launch Leroy, no fucking way can I agree to that. Fahkumram is a big problem, I agree, but launch Leroy was the most busted thing I've seen since Tekken 5. It's Evo Japan with 6 Leroys can't even begin to cover how dumb that character was.
의심을 하게 돼. 이거 안 맞을까? 내가 문제가 있나? 제가 문제가 있나? 구린캐가 뭐 있지?
Okay, so here we go. He's going to talk now about the worst characters in Tekken 7, and this is very interesting. Very interesting.
미겔 뭐 헤야치.
So immediately he mentions Miguel, and Miguel has a lot of problems with reach. You know, you have this meme in the Tekken community of Miguel with the T-Rex arms, and there's a lot to that. His jab, his 2-1, his down forward 1. But there are a lot of instances where that reach is really going to become problematic. And he was very nerfed from Season 2 to Season 3. He got a counter hit knockdown on down forward 1-2, the second hit. But for some reason, they completely neutered Savage down forward 2, the big uppercut. And they neutered his standing 4, his magic 4. And there was another big nerf. Oh, his Savage down back 3. Used to be one of the best lows in the game, in my opinion. And now it doesn't force crouch anymore, so much less of a mix-up. But one of the worst characters in the game. I don't think I would put him in bottom 5, but there's a case to be made there. But this was what I thought was so funny, that he mentions Heihachi as one of the worst. And I think this is where there's a hint of a bias, I think. Again, JDCR is 50 times the player I am. But putting Heihachi as one of the bottom characters in Tekken 7, the way he is right now, I think this is more of a, he mains this character, and it's quite easy to maybe downplay the character you play. I see a lot of top players do this with their tier lists. Everyone else characters are amazing, but my character, better, you know, drop him a couple of tiers. And I feel like this is what's happening here. Obviously, we're gonna hear his arguments, but Heihachi in the bottom.
헤야치도 좋진 않아. 헤야치도 좋진 않아. 아머킹도 좋진 않아.
Armor King is not that good, definitely. It's like, Heihachi is weaker than Kazuya and Devil Jin, but Heihachi is like mid-high tier. Armor King is like mid-low, I would say, but he's not bottom 5.
약간 안 좋은.
He puts him in bottom 5.
5개 들어가지 않을까? 안나가 좋지 않아요? 안나가 아머킹보단 좋지 않아?
So someone's asking him now, isn't Anna better than Armor King, I guess?
헤이 아머킹보단 좋지 않아?
Isn't she better than Armor King or Heihachi?
또 누구 있지? 안 좋다고 하는 애들?
Anna better than Armor King and Heihachi. She's not better than Heihachi, like, just no way. And again, like, I'm so surprised hearing him place Heihachi in bottom 5. Like, Heihachi doesn't have good lows. That's his big weakness. He has some problems with punishment. But the thing is, his mids and his highs are so ridiculously good that if you give Heihachi a good low, there's no other character that's played in this game. Like, putting Heihachi in bottom 5... I don't know if... Do we still all remember the buffed electric? That's almost impossible to punish on with. Heihachi has that. Heihachi's monstrous strings, like 1 back 2, Hunting Hawk, forward 4, that's +4 on block, and death on crouch. He has the homing hell sweep. It was removed from Devil Jin and Kazuya, but Heihachi still has it. And his hell sweep isn't that useless. It's quite underrated, actually. He has a launching punch parry, Heihachi. He has monstrous combo damage. He has an electric. His electric. And again, like 4-4-2, tracking. I think Heihachi, as JDCR has proven himself, you know, in the right hands, is quite a monstrous character.
AD는 암호킹보다 좋잖아.
Eddie, he's better than Armor King. I wouldn't say so. I would say Eddie is worse than Armor King. Eddie has some fun mix-ups, but he's just so unsafe. And he has no sidestep at all. He has a good backdash, but Armor King, I would say, is not a strong character, but in my opinion, he's stronger than Eddie because his fundamental tools are so strong. Movement, with punish, he has a dark upper. His dark upper is super good. Down forward 1, down 4, down 3, basic poking. Super strong throw game, great to have. Enormous damage. Some pretty fucking decent punishment with 2-1. Back 1-2. He has some good counter it launchers. Down forward 3, up forward 3. It's like, come on, like, in my opinion, it's my opinion.
기준이
But
다르긴 한데 약간 짜증나잖아 조금. 짜증난다고 하는 그런 느낌이 조금 있는 것 같아요. 그런 캐릭이 장단점이 있어.
I actually love this because he's being so upfront and frank here. You won't hear any single pro player acknowledge that gimmick characters can be annoying. Like Eddie, Zafina, Xiaoyu. It can be very frustrating to fight them due to their many stances, you know, and tricks and moves where you need very, very specific knowledge to beat them. But here you have one of the best players in the world acknowledging that. That they are annoying, they have tricks, and that gives them strength. And this is how the games are balanced. It's that there's this classic thing I always see on Tekken forums where you have, for example, Yoshimitsu players saying, when are we going to get good frames? When is Yoshimitsu going to get the good pokes? And it's like, you don't understand the very basic balancing process here in that if you're going to have that bag of tricks, you can't have good frames and pokes. That's the trade-off. Kazumi and Kazuya do not have the tricks. They use a few set of moves, but the few moves they do use have great frames and utility. Because that's because they have sacrificed the big bag of weird tricks. Lei can't have good frames because he has a huge bag of tricks. That's what separates those characters from each other. And here we have JDCR acknowledging that that big bag of old tricks, it's a good thing to have. It can frustrate your opponent very easily.
헤이아치 암호킹은 되게 캐릭이
They are very standard characters. They rely on movement and very few attacks. Like Kazuya, they rely more on timing rather than mixing up your opponent with many moves. They use one move and the mix-up is rather when is it applied. It's a lot about timing.
정석이야 조금.
And movement, of course, creating opportunity.
그래서 이런 거 좋아하면 얘네가 좋아. 근데 얘네 단점은 그 트리키한 게 하나도 없어. 그냥
There's nothing tricky about them. Yeah, for the most part.
날아가지. 거기 할 거 없으면 짬바라고, 폭풍하고, 암호킹 뭐해? 윈어퍼하고, 원잡하고. 근데 장점은 뭐해? 윈어퍼하고, 원잡하고, 짬바라고.
So this is a little bit of downplaying here in my opinion. What can he actually do? He's not a tricky character. He's very standard. All he has is forward 4, hell sweep, down 4, and electrics, right? Well, again, yeah, not a whole lot of mix-up, but are these moves some of the strongest moves in the game? The new electric, you know, that is the best move of all time, probably, the Tekken 7 Season 3 electric. And his forward 4, again, like +4 on block. If it hits on crouch, they die. He gets a guaranteed down forward 1-2. And of course, he says hell sweep and down 4, but this is where I would say, why not mention 1 back 2? Could be the best string in the game. His launching punch parry, his forward 4-2 that now hits grounded, hunting hawk, his jab, Down for 1, he's down for 1. +9 on hit, -1 on block. Can add the 2. Heihachi has some incredible stuff. And his damage.
소풍하고 아머킹 뭐해? 윈어퍼하고.
And Armor King, down for 1 or 1 jab. Yeah, the Armor King is very limited. His mids aren't very good. But this is also a case where you could mention more stuff. You know, like Giant Swing, he has the best throw in the game. He has a wave dash to apply that throw and mix-ups. And he has a Dark Upper. That's a pretty big deal. But Armor King is way more limited than Heihachi in my opinion.
번잡하고. 근데 장점은 켄신이랑 다 갖고 있으니까 그래도 그런 되게 정석? 그런 게임 하기에는 나쁘지 않지. 근데 AD 안나는 반대 같아요, 제 느낌에는. 애들이 약간 좀 이상한데 짜증나는 순간이 딱 하나 있어. 막 이지거일 때, 갈가먹을 때.
Again, refreshing to see a pro player say this.
그래서
you know, how many times have I gotten annoyed on stream? And you see people in the chat, learn the matchup, lab the character, get good. Or pro players tweeting me saying, get good, you suck. Or how many times have people gone to forums? I'm not talking about me specifically now, but just people going to forums saying, oh god, I get annoyed versus Xiaoyu, or I get annoyed versus Zafina. They seem to have a million moves. Get good, lab the character, you suck. Stop whining. Isn't it refreshing to see a pro player here just say, you know what, I also get annoyed at that. Because trust me, they all do. They all get annoyed at certain characters. We all do. We all have, among this very large cast and diverse cast, we all have characters we get annoyed at. But the pro players, they don't want to admit it most of the time. Because they see that as a sign of being scrubby or whatever. It's quite pathetic if you ask me. So it's refreshing to see JDCR do it.
나는 AD 안나가 약간 더 좋다 생각을 해. 저는 그래요.
There's nothing wrong at being annoyed at a specific matchup or character. Nothing at all.
근데 사실 그거를 제가 해봐야 말을 하지. 제가 안 해봤는데.
Okay, hasn't tried. Don't take my opinion too seriously.
Gigas any good? No, Gigas is bad.
It's like, this is also interesting. Like, if you're talking about the worst characters in Tekken 7, I think immediately Gigas should be mentioned, and Lars. Lars is really bad, actually. He feels pretty strong in like beginner and intermediate ranks, but as soon as you go up to high level play, it's like you understand that anything he does, he takes a huge risk. A huge risk. I do like his punishment though, it's a bit underrated.
번띵님, 에디가 좋아요, 아머킹이 좋아요, 헤이가 좋아요, 럭키가 좋아요.
Eddie, Armor King, Yashi, or Lucky Chloe? Lucky Chloe or Heihachi is the strongest there.
나도 그런 거 같다. 나도 약간.
Chloe is a little bit better than the rest. Why is Heihachi so weak? Is someone asking me here. The thing is, I don't see Heihachi as weak.
나는 왜 느낌상에 나는 왜 중간 티어가 잘 없는 느낌이지? 센 애들은 세고 약한 애들은 약한 느낌이야. 캐릭을 보는 애들만 봐서 그런가? 캐릭이 40명 있지 않아요, 이 게임?
It's true. 50 characters and it's 20 characters you see all the time.
에디 안 좋지. 에디 안 좋아.
Eddie is bad, yes.
차라리 아머킹의 A가 좋은 것 같다. 아머킹은 내 생각에는 얘는 사람이 잘하면 돼. 얘는 내 생각에는 하단기가 이거 안 좋긴 한데.
His lows are not very good.
나는 좀 저는 그렇게 생각해.
Oh god, it's like this is the best Armor King player in the world, and he's much better than me. But I can't see Armor King's lows as weak. Down 4 has just such great range. But he's obviously 1,000,000% correct when he says that the Armor King player has to be good. If you don't have a large amount of fundamental skill, Armor King is not a good character. You need too much movement. But placing those down 4s, if you can do that well, that's a great low. And down 3 is still a great low. But of course, he now shares it with King. But he did get a buff where if he lands a counter hit on down 3, it's +9 now. Yeah, no, Armor King has nothing that builds momentum and frames. That's true. But yeah, it's like if a player is good, Armor King can shine. But yeah, you're better off picking a different character if you have a lot of fundamental skill.
AD는 사람이 잘할 수가 없지. 행신이 없는데. 사람이 잘할 수가 없지. 콤보도 그런데. 저는 진짜 깜짝 놀란 게 AD가 제가 진짜 AD 처음으로 안 좋다 느낀 때가 이 맵이었거든요. 마침 전등이었나? 전등이었을 텐데.
AD just takes
추가타가 별로 없는 거야.
He takes too many he gambles too much. Gambles with his health at all
그때
times.
처음 느꼈어요. 아, AD가
Like Anna does.
안 좋구나.
It's like, cool mix-ups, but if you guess wrong, you die. Of course, if you guess correctly, you launch the opponent. But you can't base a great character on flip the coin, and if you get it right, you win, and if you get it wrong, you die. That's why characters like Steve are so great. Take no risk, and if you get the counter hit, well, they die. You know, that's a great Tekken character. That's a great tournament character. That's why people think, you know, Kazuya is this unstoppable monster with his 50-50. It's like, what happens to Kazuya when you block that hell sweep? Or you step that mix-up? He dies. And he has no poking, etc.
I feel Armor King sucks. But I think Armor King has got potential that little bit potential than maybe AD, maybe, or Gigas, maybe, because he has a side step. AD, Gigas, they don't have side step, trashy.
Yeah, I think this is the characters you should just mention straight away. Like, Gigas is straight up trash, and in my opinion, straight up the worst character in this game. And then Lars can be mentioned, and Eddie, I would say is like not bottom 5. I would put him in like mid-low tier, in my opinion.
판다가 낫지 그래도. 갑자기 판다 얘기를 안 했네. 판다가 걔네보단 낫겠죠?
And he said that there are no mid tiers in the game, and I feel that's a little bit little bit of an overreach. There are definitely mid tiers.
귀여워.
Claudio, for example, is a very solid mid tier. I would say Katarina is a mid tier as well, and well, quite a few other characters. Negan is a very strong mid tier. He's like mid high, I would say. But a weak mid tier is Eddie, I would say. I wouldn't place Eddie at like bottom shit tier.
아, 망했다.
Noctis is definitely a great example of a mid tier
판다가
character.
좋아, AD가 좋아. 판다가 좋아, AD가 좋아. 판다 좋지 않아요? 아, 그만해. 아씨.
What tier would you place Feng Wei? Mid high.
뭐야 이거? 아이고야.
Mid high, I think. Wow, interesting setup there. But is this it for the video? No?
No. 우와! 안 죽죠? It's okay. 과감한.
Eesh.
아, 저도 판단은 안 좋은 것 같거든. 근데 쟤 약간 짜증나는 그런 거 있어.
That was sick. Wow.
어디가?
Nice, nice
판단은
stuff.
퍽퍽 가네. 어디가? 왜? 왜 일로 와? 안돼.
Looks like we have a Western standoff. But I guess he's done with discussing. No?
나도 위에 애들이 세서 그래. 위에 아래 애들은 괜찮은데 나는 위에 애들이 센 것 같아.
Yeah, no, definitely. There are a few characters that are just way too strong. And unfortunately, a lot of those characters are DLC, which is a pattern with this game. But yeah, it's unfortunately a little bit the truth that if you pay a few bucks extra, you get a few extra gallons of gas in the tank. It's like Leroy, a joke. Fahkumram, a joke. Geese, a joke. Negan can be a joke. But Zafina, a joke. Ganryu, a joke. Yeah, it's quite bad actually. And Paul needs toning down. There are a lot of problematic characters, and I feel like if they just fix those, and for God's sake, for season 4, can you buff Gigas? Like, ever? Can you just give him what he needs? It's we could so easily just fix the best characters, fix the worst characters, boom, and you have much better balancing, like that. But so this was interesting. JDCR had some interesting things to say. Hopefully so did I. I talked for quite a bit, meaning that this was hopefully a viable conversation and I will not be torn to shreds for posting this to YouTube because I'm adding a lot to this. But I just want to stress again, JDCR is a great guy. He's much, much better than me at this game. But even if I, met him and he said this to my face, I would just disagree with him flat out and just ask him, like, why on God's green earth would you put Heihachi in bottom 5 with that electric, with that combo damage, with that movement, with that forward 4-2, 1 back 2, forward 4, etc. And he'd probably say because the lows are shit. And it's like, yeah, absolutely. But everything else is just so strong. But yeah, very interesting. Hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, take care, everyone on YouTube.